All right, here's the deal. I gained weight, a lot of it, like 30 pounds. Like I was like 210. Not in the I'm bulking way, like dirty bulk pizza and bench press way, but more in the I feel sluggish, my clothes don't fit, I'm embarrassed to take my shirt off at the pool kind of way. And honestly, it wasn't a weird mystery as to why it happened. There's three main reasons. First one, depression. Yep, brain might be broken. Yep, existential dread, identity crisis, all the fun, normal stuff that depression does to you. Second reason, desk job. I have a desk job. I used to have a stand-up job. A stand-up job. Sure. I used to work in a gym, actually, which makes this a little more embarrassing, where I'd move around, show people how to squat, show people how to do pull-ups. So I was getting more activity, and then as I got older, I started to do a desk job, which meant all of a sudden all my activity was gone, and I didn't replace it with anything. So what happened? My calories stayed the same, my activity went down, so it started to hang out. I started to get fat, okay? And the third, and the biggest thing, and the main reason I made this video is the toxic all or nothing habits / mindset. I went through every dumb fitness rule that exists. No carbs, cheat days, clean eating, no cardio because I don't want to look weak. I don't want to lose my gains, right? And that was probably the most harmful and probably the biggest reason why I ended up gaining weight in the first place. So I needed to change. But following this hardcore, all or nothing, like stuff was not gonna work. So instead, I started to do more weird stuff and some not so weird stuff that actually worked. And spoiler alert, it didn't involve starving myself. It didn't involve giving up cookies or doing miserable workouts or giving up alcohol or I eat bread every day. And you can do that too. So I want to get into those 8 weird things I did to lose weight without hating my life so that hopefully it can encourage you or somebody you care about. Okay? And the first thing was that I stepped on a scale every single day. Every morning. And maybe the weird part is that I didn't freak out about it. I would get on the scale every morning, look at where I was, and I tried to track my weight more weekly than daily. I think sometimes the daily stuff can get toxic, right? Because if you drink even like a cup or 2 of water, your scale weight's gonna go up. And that doesn't mean you're failing at your fitness goals. And so what I mostly did it was to kind of track week by week if I was progressing in the right direction, but also it made weight loss and my weight top of mind first thing in the morning. And again, not in the obsessive way, but in the, okay, 2 cookies is great. Do I need a 3rd cookie really? kind of way. Or I don't really want to exercise today, but yeah, I am working towards this goal. It's kind of the top of mind first thing I did every single day. So I would say if you're somebody who's trying to lose weight, if you can get on the scale every day without panicking or losing your shit if you gain a pound overnight because you drank water or you ate a meal later in the day than you're normally used to, it would be super helpful. It was super helpful for me. The second thing I did was I stopped trying to eat like a fitness influencer, which is weird because you could make the case I a little bit was one in the past because I own gyms. I wasn't like a social media famous person or anything, as you can tell by this channel, but I did try all the fads, and unfortunately I even advocated for them back in the day. Now this is like 10 years ago, so 10 years ago, holy, but everything from like keto to clean eating to like calorie counting, it was just too many. It was super detrimental to my personal well-being. It also was like just so far off from where I was. I was kind of just eating whatever I wanted as a everyday person. And so I gained weight, like 30 pounds weight. And I'm like, okay, I don't need to do a crazy diet to lose this 30 pounds. I wasn't like doing a crazy diet necessarily before I gained this weight. It kind of slowly eked up. So let me, instead of trying to be obsessive with this stuff, let's just try to get back to some solid basics that are unsexy and boring, but you know works. And so the first thing I thought of is some of the practices that, you know, nutritionists and RD would advise is an activity called crowding out. I'm sure you've heard it before, but if not, welcome. Crowding out is basically where you're making sure you're getting your solid meals throughout the day so that there's less room for you to eat just pizza nonstop. And so for me, the important things for me was making sure I was eating a breakfast every day that I had planned on eating. Typically it was oatmeal most days. A lunch that I wanted to do. I used to utilize food delivery apps for my lunch, but then I started making them because I was actually kind of bored with the food delivery options. And then dinner. And I kind of was a little bit more loose with my dinner. But I just figured if 2 of my 3 meals a day were not junk, donuts, croissants, lattes, and all this other junk, I'm going to crowd out the bad behaviors. And I'm also not going to do as much like nighttime snacking, which was one of my big challenges. Is I used to like eat a box of cereal at night or something like that, which is not good for weight loss. The third things I did, which is kind of directly connected to it, I ate cookies and I still lost weight. Now, why is this important? In the past, I was somebody who would just cut out all my favorite foods. I would typically fall back into either some sort of low carb diet, which was very trendy when I was in the gym owning world. And it's still kind of popular. It comes in waves. Everything's in waves, right? But the problem is I love carbs. And so what was happening is I was kind of white knuckling my weeks every time I would do like a low carb or like a paleo or a clean diet or whatever, where I wouldn't eat foods that I want to eat. And what ended up happening was a couple things. I would end up doing like cheat days and like binge eating, which is, I'll get into more on that in a little bit, which created this horrible psychological relationship with food. But the other thing is I would end up eating like these weird healthy junk foods, like these keto cookies or these paleo cookies, which I don't know if you know, can sometimes be just as high, if not higher calorie than the junk food. Like 2 Oreos is typically a lower calorie food than like some healthier like almond flour cookies, right? Just because it doesn't have the toxic or processed bullshit. And if you want more information about that, there's actually qualified people on here who can educate you about that. My favorite one is probably Dr. Lane Norton, who has a YouTube channel on here, who has helped kind of shake me out of the addiction to clean eating mindset. I did not cut out any of my favorite foods, and I don't advise you do that either. My favorite food is cookies. I think I've made it clear. Have I? Yeah, I've made it clear. So yeah, and I would typically eat cookies, and it's oftentimes I'd pair them with things like a protein shake. Like I would drink these own vanilla protein shakes, and it was legitimately having milk and cookies at night, but now I'm having protein, it's filling me up, and I'm still having my favorite food. Which kind of brings me to my next thing, which is my 4th weird thing, or maybe normal thing, I don't know, that I did, is I quit my all or nothing mindset. I used to be one who would go super hardcore into a diet or into a workout program, and because of that, I would go super hardcore into stopping. And I used to even do things like skipping cardio, because in my mind, I was like, I want to get jacked and I don't want to lose any gains. And so I would avoid it, right? And I think the reality was that I was maybe a little lazy and didn't want to do it. And I had the same, behavior with other stuff. Like I was somebody who was like, if I eat one little piece of sugar, it's going to knock me out of ketosis and it's going to ruin everything. And if I eat one piece of pizza, I might as well just eat the whole pizza because I've already ruined everything, right? And I think that's a normal behavior. Weirdly, from like people with maybe even a little bit of a fitness background, where they're like, hey, if I eat a little bit of cookie or a little bit of rice or a little bit of bread, all these things that aren't necessarily inherently bad for you, you're thinking, well, I've already ruined my diet. I might as well just eat everything. And so it turns out what everybody advocates for is this moderation and balance actually works better. And it works better because I never felt like I was restricting a food or even an activity that I wanted to do. So if you take one thing from this video, please, and there's more stuff coming, but maybe the all or nothing mentality seems to be like the most toxic, harmful practice I've seen, especially if you're just like a normal person who just wants to be not fat. Right? If you want to be a fitness influencer or a bodybuilder and like hella jacked and like aesthetic and like dehydrated, that's a different outcome. But I would say for like 99% of people, that's not what we want. What we want is just to not be overweight, unhealthy, and die early. So that if your goals are similar to mine, that might be what I would advocate for. 5th weird thing I did that helped me lose weight and it actually worked, was I did cardio, but I actually didn't do it for the weight loss. I started running around this time last year, maybe a little later when it was warmer. But I was initially running not actually to lose weight, but to for my mental well-being. There was a couple of reasons. The main one was it helped me manage my stress a little bit, and the depression stuff too. It helped me manage depression, and it helped me just feel a little bit better. But the additional benefits I got from it was I would feel more mentally strong. I did not want to be weak. Like physically or mentally, emotionally, I wanted to be a strong person. And I remember thinking like, look, I'm only going running for like 20 to 30 minutes, right? Like I'm not like a marathoner or anything like that. I'm just trying, like any human adult should be able to run around for 20 to 30 minutes. It's not going to make you lose your gains. It shouldn't hurt me. It should help me overall. So I started to do that. And as a side note, when you burn more calories throughout the week, it does help you lose a little bit of weight too. But again, that wasn't the main goal for doing it. I was doing it for the mental well-being, the stress, it's forced meditation, but also because I'm a normal aged adult man. I should be able to jog for 20 minutes without dying. So that's the main reasons I did it. But you do get those extra bonuses. And again, I wasn't obsessing over fat burn or calories burned at all. I couldn't tell you how many calories I burn on a run right now. And I kind of don't care. Okay, number 6, I stopped caring about my aesthetic goals for a little bit, which I know sounds crazy. But instead of obsessing over my abs or how lean I could get, or if my biceps were getting bigger, or if my chest or whatever, right? Instead of being obsessed about the physical appearance, I was just kind of focused on getting better, right? Just progressing. Because my thought process was, okay, if I'm getting, stronger, whether it's being able to run longer / faster or lift more weight, I will eventually be not fat. Like it's pretty, there's not a lot of professional athletes who are very overweight and their main focus is performance. For me, aesthetic bodybuilding type training, because it is focused on building more muscle mass, and so many other things can affect that, like your sleep. Did you have a bunch of salt yesterday? Are you stressed out today? Like how much XYZ food did you have? Like it was just so much to kind of obsess about that I'm like, I'm not gonna really focus on that so much, and I'm gonna focus on the things that I know can like objectively get better, which are just performance. As I started to focus on performance, well, I ended up getting stronger and the body kind of followed, and that's how I lost some weight, right? But I wasn't necessarily committed to like, oh, I need to gain X amount of weight in this amount of time or lose this amount of weight in an amount of time. And so my outcome was really more long-term. It was in the long, like I was definitely, my outcome was not to like look hot for a wedding or for a vacation or whatever it was. My outcome was, look, I just want to not be a bigger person anymore because I feel like shit. I want to feel better about myself long term. So my plan was like, okay, by the end of the year, I want to be down. My actual goal was 185. I'm like 178, 179. Some days 180, depending. So I actually blew past that, and it was by the end of the year. I was just like, that's the healthy range to be in. That seems reasonable for me to hang out in that weight group. I looked at like NBA players who are like a foot taller than me and are weighing the same as me, and I'm like, okay, I could probably lose some weight, right? Or even like bodybuilders who are like they're taller than me, more jacked than me, and they're 170. I'm like, okay, I'm probably too heavy. I probably could lose a little bit of weight. But again, I wasn't obsessed about the aesthetic. I was just like, okay, by the end of the year here, I want to be less. I want to be less than where I am now. 7th thing I did to help me lose weight that worked really well was I made weight loss a little bit of a game for myself, and I actually started watching anime and like reality shows. That's what I did. I watched reality shows and anime, and that actually motivated me to keep going. And there were a couple of main things I watched that really helped, and I actually want to share them with you. The first one was I watched a reality show called Race to Survive. Race to Survive is a like half survival show, half like Amazing Race style TV show, where these people will run through the woods. They have to find their own food. They have to camp, and it's like a 3-day race, and they have to do it on like almost no food. They have to find food for themselves. They have to keep moving. And it was a really encouraging show for me to watch because, one, it's just amazing that those people can do that. But two, when I was going on my 20-minute run every day and I felt like this is exhausting or I'm too tired to go, I would remember the people who were racing through the woods for 16 hours a day, who had eaten a piece of beef jerky the day before, who are able to jog, hike, run all day long. And I'm like, well, this is easier than that. I can do this. Like, come on. Like, those guys can do that. I can run for 19 more minutes even if I'm a little sore. I can run for a little bit even if I didn't get the most sleep I wanted to get. And so that was really motivating for me to be like, yeah, like, look what humans are capable of. And these humans, by the way, weren't like world-class athletes. I mean, maybe you could make the case they are, but like they're mostly hobbyists is what it seems like, who do this kind of stuff for fun. And so if they can do it for all day long, I can do it for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I can lift weights for 20, 30 minutes. Like, come on. So that's what motivated me. The other things I watched were anime, which I know, embarrassing to admit, but watching anime, maybe not. Is anime cool now? It goes in waves, right? Just like diets. Okay. I was getting really into My Hero Academia, which I know is like a maybe aggressive thing to say because there's hard opinions on that show, and also a show called Black Clover, where it's all about like the main character is this underdog who's going to prove everybody wrong and win and be the best one. And like, it's a very like tropey show, both of them, but I found it super encouraging for myself to kind of imagine yourself as a main character and encourage yourself, because if you don't gas yourself up, if you don't cheer yourself on, ain't nobody else gonna do it. So I needed to stay motivated, and so literally I remember those specific anime shows and that specific reality show motivated me to keep going when I didn't want to, and helped me take myself just a little bit more seriously and push a little beyond my limits, right? Go beyond. Be a little bit more if you want to be more. That was really helpful for me, and it made it kind of fun. It made you feel, as you were doing those activities, like you're doing something, like you're part of it, right? You can win. You can be the best one. So I found that super helpful. Okay, and the last weird thing that I know is going to be crazy to you is that I stopped fasting because it made me miserable. I'm not a doctor. I'm just I'm not a nutritionist. I'm just a random dude. But everybody, and myself included, was obsessed with fasting for a really long time. It's supposed to help with your insulin. It's supposed to help with your protein synthesis and all these other things. And you know what? Maybe it does that. I don't know. For every expert who says it's a great thing, you'll find another expert who thinks that's like, it's kind of to each their own type idea. For me, what I found happened is I was tired, cranky, and more likely to overeat if I fasted. If I skipped breakfast every day, which is like the normal thing a lot of fasting people do, they'll do like an 8-hour window, some will do a 4-hour window of eating, right, where they're allowed to eat. I would find that by the time I got to my meals, I was so hungry that I would end up overeating. And I would try to like almost make up, my body was like making up for it. I also, and this one was a kind of a big one for me, had no energy to work out. And I know there are people who like swear they have all the energy in the world to work out fasting, and maybe I believe you, I don't know, maybe you do. But I know for me, I would go into the gym or I would go out for a run and feel like I was already on E before I started. And when I started eating more regularly, I felt like I had so much more energy to show up for the workout that I was actually working out harder and making more progress without like intentionally trying. And so for the main reason I'm advocating for this is because if you're somebody who's like looking for a quick fix and you think like fasting's gonna fix it, like if that feels normal to you, that's totally cool. But if it doesn't feel normal to you, or you feel gassed on your workouts, or you feel like you're more anxious, like I felt more stressed out, I was more likely to, it's nighttime, I'm near the end of the window, let me cram in a box of cereal. Well, maybe that's not the best like lifestyle / diet choice for you. So I found eating regular meals throughout the day seemed to be the most effective thing for me. It helped me sleep better. It helped me have energy. It helped me show up for work. It helped me show up for my exercise. And so I found that to be way more helpful for me. So do with that information what you will. As somebody who has fasted, who did lose weight fasting in the past when I was a young fitness instructor, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of it for me. And I think for most people, it's probably not the best move. There you have it. Those are the 8 weird, not so weird, half not weird things I did to lose 30 pounds in a year without starving myself, without cutting out alcohol, without hating my life. I hope you found it helpful. If you found this video helpful, tell me. Go down below, say this was helpful. If you found it wasn't helpful, just keep that shit to yourself. But I do hope this was helpful for you as somebody who was like formerly very obsessed with a lot of, fitness trends and gimmicks, and somebody who's kind of come out the other end and now finds himself in a much better position. I do think I'm probably the overall healthiest I've ever been. Maybe not the most aesthetic, but definitely the healthiest I've ever been. And I've been able to sustain the results, which is what I really give a shit about. And I think you should too. If you want more videos about me and the bullshit I do in a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, subscribe. And, there's probably another video popping up. And if you want to support this channel, watching that other video, that's the way to do it. Thank you so much. I hope you find this helpful. Let me know if I missed anything, by the way. If you think I missed something, and you're like, oh, AJ, this, resonates with me. I did this as well. Let me know if you're also somebody who's kind of gone from all or nothing to a little bit more balanced way to eat and